usually when people think about Atlantean civilization, think about technology. But actually for us, we were taught since we were very young that we are the technology, that our bodies are the real technology. And everything that we do around is just to improve the signal of our technology. And we don't need anything from the outside. That's why when you go to the archaeologist, you can find these huge stones and creations, but you can't find anything else.
After the first time I did a podcast with Mattias De Stefano, who, believe it or not, remembers all of his past lives. And I understand if you're skeptical, I was too. But after the first podcast, I told him, I said, I want to do as many podcasts as possible with you. And the theme of this episode is to talk about magic, because he's experienced things that us in our reality now, in this time and place, would consider not possible. But he's been there, he's seen them, and he has stories to tell. And he's brought some of these things into our reality. Now, of course, if you weren't there and you didn't see him, maybe you don't believe him. And I respect that skepticism. To be fair, I'm a little skeptical still, even right now. But nonetheless, if you hear him, you hear his songs, and you feel what he has to say, it all feels very true to me. So I'm excited to share this podcast with you on magic with Mattias De Stefano. Mattias, we're back.
Nice to be back.
Good to be back. So once again, I think the invitation for this podcast is to invite people into a field of belief, which may contrast with their own field of belief. A field of belief that's supported by our society and the way that we think things work in our culture, that tries to explain the things in the stories that we have. But not all cultures have participated in these same stories. And there was cultures with different fields of belief where the field itself actually permitted different realities to exist. In some way, the belief of the field allowed the belief of the individual to be cellularly embodied and allowed what we would call now magic to occur. But in another field of belief, it was just reality. It's just reality. And you have the purview of someone who's been a part of these different fields of belief where you've seen different things happen. And sometimes, and we'll get into some of these times, you've been able to call forth beings, channeled entities that operate from a different field of belief and can do things that are, quote, unbelievable. And we're sitting here in a room with our sister Celeste, who was a witness to one of these unbelievable occurrences, which involved the rain and the ability to call forth the rain. So let's start with that story. That's a personal story that we have. Well, there were several thousand people who were there to witness it. And some people, when they listen to this story, they're going to be like, coincidence. And that's okay, because that's the immune system for that field of belief that's going to reject this new belief from attacking and penetrating that belief system and causing a disruption, because we like to keep a nice tight belief system.
I would like to start by maybe clarifying some words so people could understand better some of the things that we would go through in the stories. That today we call magic those things that we cannot understand. But actually the origin of the word magic comes from the Persian language, I guess, that was magush. And the word magush means the chemical, means chemistry. And in Arabic, the one that makes chemistry, it's alchemist. So when you have the concept of alchemist, is what in that language they call magouche. So that's the magician. The magician is the one that does chemistry with the reality. But the belief of chemistry today is related to the science, which is the logics, the analytic of reality. So it must understand everything, how it works and so on, but analyze the things separate from the being.
Right.
What the alchemist analyze the things becoming those things. So in order to understand water, the alchemist becomes the water. In order to understand the fire, the alchemist become the fire. Doesn't analyze it as something outside. The thing of why we separate things is because when the alchemist was doing something, there were people watching, and that act of staring at what you were looking at makes you think that you were seeing it and not being part of it. And the word for in Latin for staring at something very focused is miracle. So miracle actually is the act of staring at something that is chemical, that is happening, but you don't understand. And that's what created the idea of separation. Like if there was something else outside happening because I don't get it, so it's not part of myself.
Right.
And until you don't become the experience itself, you don't understand it. That's why it's so difficult. Even if I tell the stories, it's difficult to be part of the story, because you think that you have to believe the story, and believe is the main concept that is wrong. Because a miracle is you witnessed what happened, and that's what makes you part of it.
Right.
But when you just listen about it, it becomes faith, and faith is very difficult to be trust.
It is difficult because we're going to be telling stories that we haven't been a part of.
Yeah, it will sound crazy.
Yeah, we're asking people to take a leap of faith. And so feel free, everybody listening, to take the leap or don't take the leap. It's okay. But it's just an invitation. It's an invitation to try it on and just allow it to work through you in a certain way.
I've been called the rain child since I was 12 years old at school, because everyone kind of knew that whatever happened to me was related to the weather. And even the teachers were calling me the rain child. When I was a child, with these guides that I had, they reminded me how it was to be part of nature, how the reality is not something a part of me, and I am not living in this world. I am this world. So they used to repeat me every time this, like, you are the water, you are the people, you are the house, you are this and that. So I started to become that and be able to communicate with it from within, not like talking to the objects or to the nature, but to understand that I was listening to myself in different shapes. So that was like kind of a game for me when I was a child, in the garden and playing with the plants, with the animals, with the rocks. But I actually could feel how I was communicating with everything. So I noticed how when I got furious or with anger, the weather changed according to what I was feeling, or when I was happy, it was also changing according to me. And it was really weird to explain because I had no way to explain it at that time. But eventually my environment, the people around me started to look at it like something is happening, but we don't know how to understand it. And it was because besides my family was agnostic, and the context that I had was science and nothing else. The guides that I was able to listen and to talk to, they were making me part of a culture that I had no around.
Right.
So since very child, my cells listened, you are the elements, you are the nature, and you can play with it, you can know it. When I was waiting for the bus to go to the school, I was just moving myself and see how the trees were moving with the wind. And I was feeling the trees, and I was being the trees, and I was being the wind. And so I could make it stronger or soft according to how I was moving.
And I think let's just pause here for a second, because the interesting thing to note is the reason that you were able to do this was because your guides from the earliest age were infusing your actual cellular memory, like your understanding, with this reality.
Yeah.
So you are a part of a field of reality in which you are inseparable from the natural elements.
Yeah,
Many things
came together, because in my home, I had no one saying there is God and this is the world. So my cells never heard the concept of someone that was superior to me. I was born without a dad, so I didn't have the image of someone to follow either. I had a context that allowed me to listen to them and to become them. So it's very important, this, because since you are born, you are being told so many things in what to believe, what is wrong, what is good, what you should do, what the society expects from you. When people doesn't have that, and the context allows you to become the tree if you want to be the tree. This is what happens with so many cultures in the Amazon, for example, or the native Australians. They can listen to the reality. They can communicate with the wind. They can talk to the trees, so the trees can tell them what is the medicine, because those people doesn't have the idea of there is a God outside.
Right. And I think it's also, again, it's important to recognize that we can't just change our mind and then expect, that's not the place where all of our memories are stored. Like our memories are stored through the entirety of our being.
Yeah.
This is the record keeper right here. This is like the physical record of everything that we have been entrained to believe. And so it's a process to actually move to a different state of understanding.
And it's that usually when the mind is in control of reality for us, we tend to believe that we are controlling the nature, that let be a storm, and the storm is there, because we think that it's the mind that controls it. But the thing is that you have to convince each one of your cells that you are the storm. It's not like like a mutant stuff is or a movie or superhero stuff. Is not that you are controlling it, is that you are becoming it. And in order to become that, you have to release the idea of who you are. And that's the most difficult thing, because your ego tries to survive all the time.
Right. This is the myth of the phoenix. You have to allow it to go to ash.
Yeah.
In the place of ash, when the ego is not there, then the magic of something else can emerge.
Can happen. So that allowed me to channel, for example. That was what allowed me to manage somehow the elements in some of the activations that we did. Sometimes there were only 2 people, sometimes there were thousands, but as much more people is together, is stronger, because
so it's like a magnifier.
Yes. So that's why when there is a huge amount of people, the magic is really much more powerful.
Is that why in the Bible they say where 3 or more are gathered?
Yeah.
Like that's where there's like it's
the law of 3, the Trinity. It's needed in order to manifest greater things, and so that's why you need at least 3 persons in order to manifest something. The first time that I really was scared about what I was able to do, what I was becoming, was one day at school. I was 13 years old or 14, I don't know, maybe almost 14, and I was in the classroom, and of course I've been the most weird person in the room. So I was bullied because I have a lot of material to be bullied, but also to be loved. So I had a lot of friends that loved weird. I had a lot of teachers that loved weird, but it was natural. Now I know that I would have to have more fun with it. So there was one of them that was constantly like bothering me from the back of the class, and I was going through a very dark process in which I was blaming myself for remembering all these things. And I remember I was in English class in Argentina, and they were mocking me and all these kind of things. And suddenly I felt all this energy that I was working with in another level, trying to understand, and the environment became like heavy and weird, and suddenly he threw me something in the head, and I turned and hit the how to say, the table.
Desk.
Yeah, I hit it and said stop. And when I said that, a lightning went through the window and break the glass, and the rain started to come inside but it was no storm. It just appeared, and the trunk of a tree fell down against the window, and hit someone that was inside the room, and I sat down breathing like more relaxed because of the discharge of energy, and everyone was afraid of me since that time. And from that moment was like the storm kid, like
right.
And it happened many times at school with tornadoes and these kind of things, like when I was really mad at something. Well, when you don't have the cultural beliefs and the structure of what your parents or your teachers or society told you to believe, you can become all that. You can be really yourself, and instead of saying I believe in this, you say I am this, or instead of saying I believe there is a God, you say I am God. And those are powerful words that were forbidden from our language, because it makes you, a lot of people say, oh, that's egocentric, or that's words that shouldn't be said. We have been forbidden for a long time, centuries, to say sacred words that makes you become magic. So yeah, when you become that, it's incredible, because you can feel what the environment is feeling. You can feel what others are feeling, what the plants are feeling, everything. Well, in the gathering that we had in 2018 in Argentina, I had 3 main gatherings that my guides used to tell me that the rain would be the key, because the rain will bring the information for everything that we needed to do. So, like 10 months before the gathering, I told everyone, bring some umbrellas because it's going to rain, and or be prepared because it will rain. And it's like, how could you possibly know that day at that time it will rain? And say, well, that's for sure, because we need the information. So this time was for the gathering was in Egypt,
which it's much more rare for it to rain in Egypt than it is in Argentina.
Yeah, of course. And it's like how it's going to rain in Egypt that much as we usually need. And so the first day in the morning, suddenly the storm comes, and it rains so much, like it rains for the whole year in that morning, and the storm was so strong that it even took the main gate and throw it away to the ground, and everything was like moving like in a tornado kind of thing, and it was cold. Suddenly it was freezing, like it's Egypt. Even if it was winter, it was like normal temperature for the sun with heat, and the whole gathering was, of course, without any roof because it's Egypt. Nobody thinks that it's going to rain. So nothing is prepared for the rain,
except for the people who all bought raincoats if they got the memo.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was funny to see a lot of people wearing raincoats, like saying, yeah, we knew it.
Yeah.
It's a Mattias gathering, so it will rain for sure. So I had to run in the rain, and I saw all the people like going inside and trying to find a place to cover. So I just appear running and say, no, come to the rain, like dance in the rain. We need this information. So suddenly all the people were under the rain and dancing and with drums and everything. And we started all the gathering with this water, with this rain. And suddenly when we needed to start with our task, our conversations, the clouds just opened and the sun was amazing, and the heat came back.
I heard there was a rainbow over the pyramids.
Yeah, there were rainbows. Yeah, so a bit far, but you could see it. Yeah. So the whole day was blessed with the 4 elements. We were blessed by the elements, and our task was about the elements. And I went in November last year just to talk to the elements. I went with few friends, 4 of them, just to talk to the elements, to explain them what we were going to do, to ask for permission, to become them. We asked permission to the government of Egypt. We asked permission to the police, but we also went there to ask permission to the elements, to the earth, to do the gathering. So we went there, and they were really mad, really, really, really mad on us. Like they took me, and I was like gone for 1.5 days, and I really wasn't there. I was like underground, and I felt the anguish of the water in the territory. And she was crying like I was like channeling it, and I was crying and lost. And she was, I say she, but whatever. She was really stressed, like afraid of us coming to take the water away, like everyone else did. And I said, why? And said, because all this was on me, all this was water, and it was trapped. And I said, how is trapped? And they said, the press, the dam in Aswan, the water is not flowing here. It's not the clean water. So she was really, really mad, and I was feeling how she was trying to release that tension. And that night there was a storm in Aswan that took like water from the dam and started to create like a twist around the city, and took scorpions from the desert, and they were flying around and hitting the people. Like they call it a scorpion rain that happened that day. It was crazy. People were trying to hide from the scorpions that were on the streets, and I felt the madness of the elements trying to speak, to say, right, here we need to release this tension here. And so we agreed to bring love to, and we invited them to be part of the gathering. So when the gathering started, the 4 of them came, and and we all felt it. Like, whoa, like it was so powerful. So, and that's why I said to everyone, go and hug them and feel them, because you should not be afraid of them. They are here to be a part of the gathering, to bring us the data that we don't have. And we have to become them. We should become the elements that we were working with. So they came the first day, like entering the same gate that people were entering, and it was magical. It was something that they all experienced like magic, because there were rainbows and rain in Giza. It's like that's not normal. Of course that there are rainy days in Egypt, but exactly in that moment, in the opening of that gathering, where we were calling the elements, that makes you be connected with it. In 2018, we did the second of these 3 main gatherings in Argentina, and also I was expecting for rain. My dad came to the gathering because we asked him to help us with some stuff. So he went there, not believing in anything, and when the storm came and he saw how many of us were pulling the clouds, like coming back or coming to us or calling for the portal to be open, and the gathering was 11:11, and 11 birds came and made the turn around everyone to open each one of the meditations. He started to ask me, did you release these birds before every meditation? And it was like, no, they are coming from the mountains. I was like, why? So because it's the portal. So they are saying now it's the moment to do it. They are showing us the portal. So because they were 11, so they came 11, then in the second meditation 11 again, in the last meditation 11 again, doing circles around all the people, and then they left so we could start. And then the weather and the storm and everything that happened, it was like he was like, I don't believe in any of this, but that was really weird. And we went to the hotel. The gal in the hotel said, have you bought the coats already? And I said, coats? If it's a sunny day, my dad was saying, if it's a sunny day and there's no rain in the forecast, yeah. There's no rain in the forecast. No, but Mattias is here. It was like everyone in the town knew. So they were saying, but Mattias is here, for sure will rain. I was like, so that night when it rained, they were to the hotel, and the route and the road was like all a river, like
flooded.
It flooded, and they couldn't reach the hotel, and they went all wet, like all the pouring water inside the hotel, and she said, I told you. I told you it would happen. So he ended up telling me and telling all his friends that didn't believe in this, everything that happened, because he witnessed that something, even if he couldn't understand it, something was happening, and he was witness of that.
Yeah. Because you told a story of when you were in, I think it was Scotland.
Yeah.
And you went to a sacred site in Scotland, and you channeled
Druid's temple.
A Druid's temple. Why don't you tell that story to contrast?
That was even weird for me.
That was weird for you,
and
because
I'm weird.
because that one wasn't you. So you, because of your guidance and because of your background, you have some ability to form that sympathetic resonance with the elements. But in that case, there was something even stronger in a way.
Yes, because I usually connect with the water. That's my element, let's say. It's like if each one of us is connected much more with one element than others by resonance. So my entire soul is connected to the history of water. But this time it wasn't me. We were doing a path through the British Islands, and we started in the south of England, in Cornwall, and we ended in the north of Scotland, in Orkney Islands. So we went through the chakras of the island, in every stone circle with 50 people. And very weird things happened. And I would like to say the first one that happened the third day. It was 14 days, changing every day from different place. So it was crazy. And the third day we were in Stonehenge. And our trip has this symbol, which was like a triskele.
Mhm.
It's like this was the symbol, like a spiral, a spiral,
Mhm.
connected like three. And we were connecting with it in Stonehenge. And when we finished that connection, doing like opening a portal there, someone sent us a message saying a crop circle appeared just aside where you are. And we went to the crop cycle that appeared just after we were doing the connection. And the crop circle was our logo. Like it appeared exactly what we were working with.
Mhm.
And we were able to sit and meditate there. And it was like a communication with the underground and the beings that usually send data and information, and we were working with them. So we were becoming them, shaping the same structure, so they share the same information with us. And then 3 days after that, or 2 days after that, we went to Ilton. It's a small village close by Sheffield. And there's a place called Druid's Temple, which is free. You can go walk around in the forest. And it's an amazing place. It's not very ancient, actually. It has been remade in the 17th or 18th century by someone that wanted to connect with the Druids again. So they took the stones and created the temple again, or in a new way. But we said we will use it to do a ceremony. A few years ago, I felt someone from the British Islands, a spirit, that introduced himself like the alchemist. And everyone started to say, oh, he's Merlin, the magician, Merlin. And he never said Merlin. He always says the alchemist. This alchemist came many times since 2012 to say, I am guiding you. And he always speaks in British, like very British. And I was not expecting him at all. But that day in the temple, I was expecting the people to do the ceremony, which allows us to go farther in our path. And I was preparing everything, like candles and a bowl with different kinds of incense
And someone gave you a cloak, right?
Yeah, someone gave me a cloak as a gift a few days before, so it was fun, and I say I will use it. So I put everything there, but I didn't have the lighters or matches to light everything up. So I was there, and the 50 people came, but also who came with them was the driver of the bus, not knowing anything about what we were doing. And he just saw me actually. He had no idea what I was, but I had the cloak covering everything, and suddenly I stopped being myself. I became that druid, and he put all the people in a circle. He was staring at each one, but not looking at them physically. And he took the bowl to start the cleaning of the people.
And there was herbs and things in the bowl.
Yeah, all the herbs and stuff. But he was like this, and of course, he wouldn't ask for a match. So
It would be hella disappointing if Merlin asked for a lighter.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
very.
Merlin!
So, but nobody understood who I was because I was just in silence. But suddenly, I hold this like this and stare at the herbs and just said, and light. And when I said that word, the fire came from nowhere, like did like this, and the whole smoke everywhere, and the fire had like colors. Like it was not just the fire; it was like burning with violet and blue, green, like something like this. And like if nothing happened, he normally started to do the cleaning of the people. And inside, I was like, what? What just happened? It was like, I'm not controlling this. I have no idea that I could do this. and he was like, shh, like everything's okay. Like we didn't have the match. And the other day, the bus driver, everyone was asking like, how did you do the trick? I was like, what trick? It was like, I didn't have anything. It was like the fire came alone, and it was not under my control. It was because the being that was inside of me, he actually knew that he was the fire. And I don't usually connect like that with the fire. So
could you through the being that was with you? Because it's always with. It's not like you were there, obviously, in communication. So it's you and the being like superimposed over each other.
Yeah, like becoming one.
Yeah. Could you feel that yourself as the fire, as that,
yes,
as that being?
Yes.
What did that feel like?
It was like if you are burning, but it doesn't burn, and you just, what I feel is like if the light comes from the very inner core of the atoms, like if each one of your atoms starts to ignite, but it doesn't burn, and you feel like you're shining, but that's it, and suddenly it just became fire. So it was amazing. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that again.
Well, it wasn't. Yeah.
Yes, I hope.
So these have happened in your life, this life.
Yeah.
And thank you for, offering people the invitation to have these new invaders into their belief system.
Yeah, and I don't care if people believe me or not.
Yeah.
That's why I tell the story. Because I'm not trying to convince anyone. It was a great story. If you don't like it, you miss it. For sure. I want to go back to your life in Chem. Yeah.
Where there was a different belief system, different stories that you had. So how many thousands of years ago was that?
12,000.
12,000 years ago. So tell us some stories about what we would consider magic now, but was a part of that reality, potentially how the big stones were moved by people matching the vibration of the stones and singing their vibration up to make them lighter. Is there any stories that come to mind that of this time that you remember back in Chem 12,000 years ago?
Well, we were told since we were being born the stories of how we are drops of water from the universe. So from the very beginning, we were connected to the nature, making us become aware that we are everything that is around us. And they used to tell the stories that the universe dropped tears of joy during the creation, and that drops created an ocean of mind, and these water drops sometimes freeze and creates matter, and that matter is us being born into this reality, and inside ignites the fire that with the water and the fire expands the voice, which is the air. So they say that we have the water inside in the shape of matter, of a stone, with the light of the fire inside that pushes the voice of the air, and which is the truth. So we are drops of the mind made into matter. So because of this, this story, we all grew up knowing that we are nature, that we are everything. They told us a story that the universe dropped these first 9 drops of tears that we call the vowels, and each one of the tears vibrated in one way, which altogether sounded like and that's why we called it the Om. But it's like actually where A, E, I, U, O, U. And all these sounds were the first drops to the mind, and they divided into the water, the earth, the fire, and the air. And these 4 had each one of them a purpose in the universe. Each one of these drops had 4 drops more that took matter, and we call them the consonants, and were 36. So 9 times
4.
4, 36. So they call the 36 patterns and sounds that could shape the reality. So we were told about how by singing, by the words, the transcendence of ourselves, we could manifest new realities and create from the ocean of mind. And that allows us to talk to the plants and know which medicine was the right one. That allows us to talk to the snakes to tell us how to heal. That allows us to talk to the rocks and move them. And we knew that we were the snake, the rock, the tree. So we were just communicating with another part of ourselves that is another drop in the ocean of the mind. And this way of thinking things made a context, a very natural context, in which we were able to build the geometry, the reality that we were seeing. The pyramids are actually octahedrons, which is the very tiniest reality that you see when you go deep into the divine. So in order for the world to become a portal of the divine, we needed to sing to create with the matter that we had, the octahedrons, to connect with the divine. And we were taught how to communicate with everything, with the world. And it was part of our process of learning. We had 3 main schools. Not all of us would go through the 3, mainly the first one. The first school was Emenian. The Emenian were the ones that taught you about the letters, about this story that I just said, how the unity spread into all these realities and to understand them and how we are part of it. Then the Arsayan would teach you how to communicate with each one of those parts. And then the Idilian were the last ones where you become them. When you become and you are able to handle the weather, the storms, to move the rocks, and to build something like a pyramid, for example. So these 3 main schools, I went through the 3 of them, and
you were a woman.
I was a woman,
yeah,
related to the school of water. That's why all my connection is with the element of water. I went to that school, but I was obligated to go to that school, not because of choice, because I wanted to, but because I had the resonance with the element. So the priests and priestesses would choose between the children who was able to go to each one of the schools, and you would spend a long time doing the preparations for that. So it was a tough path that we had to do along the Nile to prepare ourselves to leave behind what we believe we are. So we had to break through each one of our layers of the ego until we become the element. And that was what we today remember as the gods and the goddesses of the ancient time. They were just people that represented a concept or an element of the universe. So we had to become that, and we were called divines or gods or something like this, but everyone knew that we were people. But we were inspiration for others to become that. So representatives of the divine on earth. We were not treated like gods, we were treated like guides. We were forbidden to be taken as gods, because otherwise you didn't understand what was all this about. So we were just there as a living presence to encode an information that others needed. And that's why we were forced in such a way to be married to one another, no one else from outside. Water had to be with the earth, fire with the air, and you cannot mix it. So you were kind of forced to. So you have to deal with it. So, for example, the ones on earth were the ones taught how to move the stones. The ones in water were taught how to break them, for example. But so how to pour the water, how to make it vibrate. But we were not the ones levitating the rocks.
So that's how you actually created the clean breaks in the stones, because there's a lot of debate about how did they chisel it so precisely. And really what you're saying is that the water
and sound,
the water priests and the sound, using the sound of the water, changing the vibration of the water, and maybe with the help of the earth priests and priestesses.
Yes. We were all working together.
Working together could actually cleave the stones.
Yes.
And then the earth priests and priestesses could then sing the stones lighter and then have them guided in place.
Yeah. For us today, when we look backwards, it's like a movie. But you should not go so far, and you can go to the tribes in the Amazon to see how people are called. You are the jaguar, you are the, the elements of the master of this. You are the eagle or the white eagle. You have these names in the Americans' traditions. You still have this thing of becoming an element, becoming an animal,
being
to awaken this potential. So you can do that, but when the whole civilization allows you to do it, it's so powerful that can move mountains. Actually, you can create an earthquake, you can create a storm, you can pour the fields. So that's why that civilization was so balanced with nature. Usually when people think about Atlantean civilization, think about technology, but actually for us, we were taught since we were very young that we are the technology, that our bodies are the real technology, and everything that we do around is just to improve the signal of our technology. And we don't need anything from the outside. That's why when you go to the archaeologist, you can find these huge stones and creations, but you can't find anything else.
Yeah, because you were still riding around on mules.
Yeah, we were living in the forest. We were living in the nature. We had houses, we had things, but they were made with such natural things that they disappeared. So we didn't need much. So it is not like we expect for a civilization to be today, that needed a lot of things in order to say we have technology. We were the technology. Our bodies were the technology. So we were able to communicate by singing, by thinking, by feeling. Hugging a tree, we could send a message to other village. we were able to become nature, to become everything. And that's why also they use animal paintings or stuff like this. And that's why some people believe that the priests or priestesses used to have heads of birds, but actually we were representing the nature.
It seems to me, in my own limited field, because I live in a field of belief where we've witnessed miracles enough times that it's no longer doesn't feel like a miracle anymore. But we have this field of belief in our community, and so these things happen that are seem to be unlocking people's latent powers, and of course Vailana being one of the first that I saw and watched her channel energies and languages and be able to do things that were beyond comprehension.
Yeah.
And many people. Things are happening now in this field, I think potentially because of the belief of the field. Do you see that there's this alternate parallel structure of a reality that's starting to find its way back, a remembering of the old ways that might be able to start permeating through and maybe make a little bit of progress in our generation, but then the next generation that comes up, like things can start to shift where we could enter a world where we have all of the technology as we know it, but then start to remember our innate human technology. And that's probably never occurred on Earth before, where we had access to both spiritual and mechanistic technology.
Yeah, this talk that everyone is listening right now is just the tip of something that is opening the possibility that you can be anything. And the thing is that we are doing it from the unconscious, so we don't know exactly what we are trying to do. So
it's messy.
It's messy. We are mistaking the concept of what it is to be whatever you want to be. What is actually happening is that the children right now are being born in a world that the discussion is, what do you want to be? And that's the most amazing thing. Because what do you perceive yourself as? What do you feel you are? So that's the most amazing.
And not worrying about what other people call you or whatever, because people are going to call you all kinds of things.
So I guess that the very important point here is that that kids are being born in a context that they are not going to be told anymore, you are this, but they have the chance to become what they feel they are. And this is just a tiny little beginning of an unconscious society, bringing back the idea that you are free. Okay? What it's really important is that word, is what do you want to be? And we've been thousands of years without anyone asking us this. And that's what is changing the children being born now. Because they listen the word, what do you want to be? How do you perceive yourself? And maybe, and this is, the goal is not to say a woman or a man. The goal is to say, wow, what am I? Then we have all the conflicts of our society, our preconceptions of stuff or whatever. Christian things, people that puts ideas upon biology, which is not good too. So a lot of mistaken concepts. But the one that I want to really take care of is that one. And that opens a new line of reality where the kids, the children in the future will be able to decide what they want to be. We can start to become anything. And we are connecting again with that ancient memory of the same molecules that are in me are also in the sun. So if I want to shine, I can shine too. I have helium. I can do it. I want to be water. I have hydrogen. I have oxygen. I can do it. So if you go to the very basis, you have all you need. Do you want to be a mountain? You have silicon inside. You can do it. You can feel a mountain because you have it. So when you go deep into the very basis of reality, that would dare the things that I touch that seems not to be alive, they are made with the same molecules, the same atoms that I am made of. So you can become anything.
It's beautiful to see somebody from your perspective, because you're coming from a perspective of, okay, this is happening and it's beautiful and it's messy, as it always does when something is birthed. There's a messy aspect of it. There's the screams and the blood and it's a messy, beautiful process. But ultimately, that infant is beautiful. That thing that's being born is and will grow up. And that idea will grow up into something beautiful.
It will take time.
It will take time, and we'll have to have the patience. But it's just actually like the messy stage of something beautiful that's evolving.
Yeah. We cannot think that what is happening now is the terrible thing. It's actually the beginning of something that will bring us to something amazing.
In a way, it feels like we're healing a lot of trauma right now. We're healing a lot of trauma by like really acknowledging groups that have been oppressed, and like making reparations as best we can internally and externally. It seems to me that this is an intermediary step and potentially a very necessary step. Very necessary step to acknowledge the suppression, which is obviously an atrocity, a fucking atrocity. Like there's nothing more ugly in this world than an ism, a sexism, a racism, a homophobia, or all of these different discriminational patterns that we've experienced. And because it feels really weird to me when I have to fill out some paperwork and it says race, and I get all of these lists, and then it comes to white. I'm like, I guess. And, like, I don't know, like what is it? What is this? How are you gonna reduce me to a color? It's a very strange way that we divide. We continue to divide ourselves.
It's a process of understanding. It's like a kid playing with toys, and first the kid needs to break all the structure of the game in order to understand each part of it until it recognizes the uniqueness of each one of those parts and put it together until it see the whole picture. So it's a whole process of educational awareness that for a child takes 5-7 years, for a civilization takes 70 years. So we are in that moment starting one of those processes of transition to understand the different parts and to become aware of the different parts, because we already have broken all of them in the last centuries. So because of this, we are now trying to pay attention to each one of the parts that we have broken and take care of them to understand how they fit together and being all as one. And I guess that we are going so fast that we will reach that point very shortly. But we need to embrace the process of going through it. And as I said, not through morality, but through consciousness. So we could accept anything that is going on, like as a part of this process that takes us to the understanding of who we are. Yeah. And it will be always like this, because the universe is about knowing yourself. So eventually in 100 years, we will figure out another thing to screw it up and to find a different way to get fun.
Another way to heal it. as we're wrapping up here, I have to ask, is there going to be some kind of extraterrestrial intervention of any sort that you think is possible, likely, certain? Because of course, now we're at a time where actually the collective belief field is pretty much in belief that there are extraterrestrial beings. Do you think there's going to come a point where there's some kind of intervention that plays a role in the merger of these timelines between our spiritual technology and our current material technology and the way that our culture is moving? Is there going to be an intervention of any sort? Do you think that's possible?
Our frequencies doesn't match its frequency. And it's not about how much do we believe in them. It's about how as a planet we are really prepared to be in touch with beings that are not in the same frequency as we are. Of course, they are close by. They have been doing interventions for thousands of years. They are here. They are all the time here. If the question is why they don't show up like in the streets of New York and say hi, it's because they would break with the entire process of evolution of this planet. So they can only help through us, that we were them and we are born here through them to do the process from here. So a lot of us, we are souls of aliens that came here to have the human experience in order to help the planet to transcend and to go into another level. The thing is that they cannot interfere in the process of someone else. Otherwise, they are changing their own reality. And that would be a mess for them too.
You mentioned that in another conversation we had, that many of the extraterrestrial off-planet being star beings are actually us in a future evolution, and because of the fourth dimensionality of time, that we're actually being visited by ourselves, which is a very interstellar moment. So in a way, there is some hard boundaries that they can't or won't cross because things get fucked up. So ultimately the answer is it's on us.
It's on us, and they are helping us from the future.
Well, this is super good news though, because if they exist in the future, that means we can't have fucked it up so bad that they don't exist.
Depending on which race we're talking to. If you see the gray world, that's a totally different story.
The gray world, that's the gray aliens and the gray world. The gray world sucks. They don't have any genitals.
Where we are loving it.
Appears to me they have no genitals.
Genitals? Oh, no. It's
that
a boring
world
planet.
Sucks.
It's a boring planet.
That world sucks.
Yeah.
It's terrible. No. I say no.
No? Okay.
I'm not into it.
So...
No.
But not all Pleiadians has balls, neither.
Fuck.
So maybe Arcturians are the best option.
Well, I'm fresh out of luck. I'm fresh out of luck.
Well, you have a lot of time to think about it.
Mattias, thank you so much for just being here, being unafraid to speak your truth. I know that in any time you speak a truth, the immune system of those who don't believe you will attack you. All of the, the white blood cells of this belief system, I'm sure they come at you. But
I love to be a virus.
Indeed, a noble purpose. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We love you. We'll see you soon.